The KXAN News Podcast is sponsored by Shelf Genie.
There's no person in America who is untouched by this case, no matter what your feelings about abortion are.
The latest line in the abortion battle is being drawn right now in the Texas Panhandle, the case that could impact medication abortions nationwide.
After so many close calls on airport runways, the solutions aviation leaders proposed at today's Air Travel Safety Summit.
And a threat of severe storms, then a significant March cold snap. Your first warning forecast is coming up.
The Texas Education Agency is taking over the state's largest school district. Thanks for joining us at 5. I'm Daniel Marin.
And I'm Jennifer Sanders. We're talking about the Houston Independent School District. The TEA says it is required to intervene after years of failing academic performance at 14 campuses, specifically naming Wheatley High School.
The TEA first announced plans to take over Houston ISD in 2019, but the district sued and an injunction stopped the plan. Earlier this month, though, the Texas Supreme Court cleared the way for the takeover to move forward, and now the state will appoint a new superintendent and a board of managers in place of the elected school board. But the district has made improvements since 2019, leading some to ask, why change course now?
Well, KXAN's Monica Madden has the reaction and what's next.
It really breaks my heart.
Frustration amongst Houston lawmakers Wednesday.
We're disappointed, very disappointed.
After learning the state will appoint a new board of managers to oversee Houston ISD, despite the district's overall B performance rating.
There's no real accountability to the parents, the students, and other stakeholders.
In a letter to the district, TEA Commissioner Mike Morath says HISD has failed to address campuses with chronic underperformance, as well as support students with disabilities.
Wheatley is a C, is no longer failing. You're talking about the largest school district, almost 200,000 students.
I asked Commissioner Morath about that. Why intervene now?
There's a campus in Houston today whose last acceptable rating was in 2011. And that's in 2 entire generations of kids have gone through that campus not learning how to read, write, or do math and do it well. And ultimately, that's why we're forced to intervene.
The law requires a 2-year minimum takeover, and Morath says he cannot provide a definitive timeline until 3 things are proven.
We don't want to see any more multi-year D or F campuses. Special education needs to be provided to students in a way that they are legally entitled to. And then the third thing is about the governing body itself. You want to see the procedures of the board and the way the board conducts business needs to be consistent with what a governing body that is entirely focused on students.
What's your message to Houston school district parents?
Our entire purpose for doing this is to improve the structure of supports that are provided to students in Houston.
Monica Madden, KXAN News.
And people who apply to be on the new board of managers must be eligible voters living in the bounds of Houston ISD. Commissioner Morath says he will appoint them and a new superintendent no later than June 1st, so those campuses won't notice immediate changes this school year.
And a 2021 Texas law is what's giving the TEA the power to take over a district if just one of its schools receives consecutive years of failing grades. Now, under that standard, Austin ISD and many other school districts could be taken over as well. But it's only fair to point out that 6 Austin ISD campuses that were previously failing received a passing grade the last time the TEA issued grades back in September. And you may also be wondering why nearly every school district in Texas has the term independent in it. Well, it's actually used to distinguish and separate them from other local governments like cities or counties. And when you hear consolidated independent, well, that's just a way of saying that 2 or more school districts merged into one.
Everyone with tickets for Willie Nelson's Luck Reunion show will have to wait one more day. It's being moved from Thursday to Friday because of that threat of severe weather David Yeomans has been warning us about. And David, we've got a big weather change headed our way.
That's probably a smart call for all those folks outside, but the downside, if you're going to that outdoor show, it is going to feel like winter outside on Friday. Here's the threat of severe storms, though, now only 24 hours away. It has not increased, but it hasn't gone down either. A slight risk of scattered storms with hail and wind damage tomorrow. We'll talk a lot more about your hour-by-hour radar forecast and some changes that we've seen in your outlooks today coming up. First, though, it's a warm, windy evening here on 6th Street, south by southwest, visible on the Austonian weather cam, 73 degrees. These south-southeast winds have really blown in, 23-mile-per-hour gusts in the city, even stronger in the western hill country tonight. And this is going to keep temperatures quite warm, even after sundown, under mostly cloudy skies. No chance of rain for your shows this evening, only down to 65 by 11. 11 p.m. Coming up in your forecast, we'll time out the severe storm risk and rain that start tomorrow. Also, a winter-like weekend, just how cold it gets.
All right, David, thank you very much. 24 hours after we reported on a suspicious death on Metric Boulevard, Austin police are calling it a murder. Investigators say 38-year-old Jorge Luis Alvarado Blanco stabbed and killed his wife, 30-year-old Minerva Molina Jimenez. Blanco was arrested after threatening to jump off the West Palmer Lane Bridge over I-35.
What many call the most significant legal battle over abortion since Roe versus Wade is playing out now in Amarillo. A federal judge heard arguments today from a Christian group seeking to overturn the FDA's 2-decade-old approval of abortion medication. Now, the focus of this case is on mifepristone, and that's one of the 2 pills commonly used in more than half of all abortions in the U.S. The anti-abortion group Alliance Defending Freedom argues the FDA didn't properly evaluate the safety of the drug and that access should be blocked immediately nationwide.
We're asking the court to do what is right, to follow and ask the FDA to follow the law by taking these dangerous drugs off the marketplace.
And in a court filing, the FDA says the lawsuit is, quote, unsupported by any evidence. The Department of Justice added the plaintiff has no legal standing to file the suit and that the drug has been safely used for 20 years by more than 3.7 million U.S. women. Abortion rights advocates, they now say that they question what they call forum shopping, and the lawsuit was filed in the court of a conservative judge appointed by President Donald Trump. And the judge has a history of siding with plaintiffs pushing to roll back reproductive and LGBTQ+ rights. Well, after close calls at airports nationwide, the country's top transportation and aviation leaders are meeting in D.C. to assess the safety of American travel.
And that includes Austin's airport. Last month, a controller cleared a FedEx cargo jet to land on the same runway that a Southwest plane full of passengers was using to take off. They came just 75 feet from disaster. Now more on the summit to prevent other significant failures from Alice Barr.
Delta 1943, cancel takeoff clearance.
A call to action today following an uptick in close calls involving commercial flights, bringing aviation leaders together for a rare safety summit.
These recent incidents must serve as a wake-up call for every single one of us.
Lufthansa Airbus A330 experienced extreme turbulence.
From severe turbulence causing injuries.
No! Do not hit him again!
To unruly passenger incidents, to more than half a dozen near collisions on runways this year, including one just last week here at Reagan National Airport outside Washington.
Oh, you're not 2003. Kansas takeoff clearance.
Boarding takeoff, United 2003.
The safety issues rattling some air travelers.
It's scary. There have been some really close calls, and the fact that they're all just happening in the last couple of weeks, couple of months, is concerning.
And prompting a hard look.
The biggest mistake we can make as an industry is to become complacent.
While industry experts say flying is still extremely safe, representatives from airlines, airports, and unions today talking about risk factors, from increased air traffic to technology to staffing shortages, especially among air traffic controllers.
We are 1,200 certified professional controllers less now than we were 10 years ago.
The FAA says it's on pace to hire 1,500 controllers this year, 1,800 next year, as the people responsible for keeping millions of travelers safe in the skies work to make the systems that protect them even stronger. In Washington, Alice Barr, NBC News.
Well, we know not everyone is a South by Southwest super fan, but there's no denying the impact on our community. And this evening, we're looking at how businesses that don't really have any South by events still benefit.
And is it a taste of what's to come? Just ahead, what's in the complaint that a Trump-supporting super PAC just filed with Florida's Commission on Ethics against Governor Ron DeSantis.
And the diamond discovery at a state park in the U.S. where you're allowed to take the stones home with you.
At a time when we're constantly shocked by rising prices, here's a little good news about the price you pay for gas. Here in Texas, gas prices have dropped by a third since hitting a record high 9 months ago today. So on June 15th of last year, a gallon of regular unleaded in Texas cost an average of $4.70 a gallon. Today, 9 months later, the statewide average is down to $3.07. So that's a drop of $1.63 per gallon, a decrease of more than 34%. Now, to find out why some Texas towns pay so much more or less for gas, just look for the story at KXAN.com.
Allies of former President Donald Trump have filed an ethics complaint against Florida Governor Ron DeSantis. NBC News exclusively obtained the 15-page complaint from Make America Great Again Incorporated to the Florida Commission on Ethics. Now, the pro-Trump super PAC claims DeSantis violated state ethics and election laws with a shadow presidential campaign. The filing cites the governor's book tour, his visits to early primary states, and the millions of dollars he raised for a state-level political committee as evidence for a probe, among other efforts. Now, Trump's team is also basing its complaints in part on Florida's Resign to Run law, which requires politicians running for a new office to resign if the terms of the two offices overlap. DeSantis has not formally announced a 2024 presidential run.
Austin's high temperature is in, and it was the warmest day of the work week so far. After a couple days in the 60s, we made it to a comfortable 76, but afternoon highs could be 30 degrees colder than this in just a few days. Your first morning forecast is coming up.
This KXAN News podcast is brought to you by Shelf Genie. I'm Rosie Newberry from KXAN Studio 512. Considering replacing your kitchen cabinets? Struggling to find or reach things? Go to shelfgenie.com/Austin. Shelf Genie designs custom pull-out shelves for your existing cabinets, adding convenience and value to the most used room in your home. Shelf Genie custom pull-out shelves, everything in reach.
South by Southwest is about halfway done, bringing in thousands of people from across the country and the world.
And as Nabil Ramonda tells us, it's bringing in cash not just for downtown, but across the city.
This here's the tour bus. Old Bessie.
Making their South by Southwest debut.
We thought they were going to hurt us when we showed up to Texas and didn't play country music. But then we had a fiddle.
Happy Landing is thrilled to play in Austin.
I think it's a rite of passage. Every band's got to go through South by Southwest.
And when the bands come to town,
that it's going to be mostly punk, hardcore, a little bit of hip hop, all local stuff.
Clayton England, who's the GM at Far Out Lounge in South Austin, says he's extra busy.
I think that it does a lot for the neighborhood.
While most of the venues linked to South by Southwest are downtown, the festival means big money for business all over Austin.
We're looking somewhere in the ballpark of $300 million in overall economic impact.
Matt Patton with Angelou Economics says it's a big boost, and when bands play impromptu shows or travel to other venues, that can bring their supporters.
And that really is an overall benefit to all of our live music venues, even some of the impromptu venues.
Ryan Barnett out at Far Out Lounge to see one of his favorite bands.
Happy Landing!
He likes the venues downtown, but South by is helping showcase new spots.
Yeah, we live south, so coming down here is amazing. We get to discover all of the new small venues.
If you don't want to go north of the river, there are plenty of places offering the same quality without all of the crazy down south.
Happy Landing, happy they landed a gig down south as well.
KXAN, baby, is my favorite news station in Austin.
Nabil Ramadna, KXAN News.
Why, thank you, sir. Okay, looking in depth right now, it's not just the festival season. The nonprofit Austin Music Movement says the city's music tourism generates about $1.8 billion per year.
First warning weather with Chief Meteorologist David Yeomans.
Well, it's been overall a very pleasant day for the beginning of South by Southwest Music Festival midweek today. 74 with warmer breezes and increasing clouds on the Lorenz and Lorenz 360 cam out near the Pennybacker Bridge. Pollen count kind of staying under control for the season. Oak could be higher than this considering it's March and it's windy. Mold and grass also up in the medium count. A few other things including elm and cedar. Those are all low. A big storm system we've been tracking for days is now over over southern California and moving this way. Fortunately, our severe weather threat has not been upgraded tomorrow. Here we are still in the 2 out of 5 slight risk area, but the more numerous damaging storms, now that bullseye is centered up near DFW and into southeastern Oklahoma. Back here at home, this does mean we could see a few severe storms late tomorrow with wind damage and hail as the main concerns. We just got brand new hour-by-hour forecast data in, so let me take you through it. Mostly cloudy and dry for your concert plans this evening. It looks like a great night to be out and about. By tomorrow morning, though, the atmosphere moistens up a bit. A couple sprinkles by 7 a.m., but I think by mid-morning, 10 a.m., 11 a.m., a little light rain shower activity becomes more numerous. But that doesn't last all day, and it's certainly not severe. After lunchtime, we get some clearing from west to east. Overall, it looks like a mainly or completely dry afternoon and early evening, but we're still waiting on the main event, and that comes later in the evening. Here we are at 7:30 tomorrow evening, maybe an isolated storm in the northern hill country, but these do not look very likely at this time. The cold front itself will be a couple hours behind that. Here it is, projected to move into the hill country and Williamson County as early as 10 o'clock, although it could be a little bit later on some of our other models. As it does so, this could be a strong to severe storm or two moving along with it. Now, the line could fill in a little bit down toward the southwest, but overall this looks a little bit less widespread, a little bit less concerning for damaging storms than what we were looking at yesterday. The front and the storms continue to race southeast of Austin by midnight, 1 a.m., and we still have a few lingering rumbles of thunder and rain showers overnight. By Friday morning, it is much colder, it's breezy, and we've still got a couple sprinkles or maybe even a little sleet pellet, as you see in that pink color, but overall it's not a wet day on Friday. Most of that happens overnight and before you wake up on Friday morning. Rainfall, over an inch possible in the Highway 77 corridor, but lighter amounts from Austin westward. Unfortunately, the lakes just not getting the rain that they need yet again. High temperatures are going to crash after this cold front. Very warm ahead of the storms tomorrow, but highs in the 50s Friday through the weekend. That's 20 degrees below normal. Not shown here. Monday, the first day of spring, a high of 47 degrees in Austin. Even with the really cold and gray weather this weekend, though, gardeners don't need to worry about a freeze in Austin. These are your overnight lows this weekend, no colder than 39. With that said, a hill country freeze is still possible for at least one morning over the weekend into Monday. That, though, not unusual for mid-March. Now, over the weekend, adding to our forecast interest, more precipitation will be possible. Now, it's unlikely on Saturday and Sunday, but both days we could see a rain shower or maybe even a snow flurry sneak into our southern tier of counties. That's most likely Saturday and Sunday south of Interstate 10, though, out of our area. On Monday, a cold rain becomes likely as a different storm moves in. And as we've been telling you, a couple sleet pellets, a couple wet snow flurries possible. That's most likely in the hill country. But even there on Monday, we won't see any winter weather accumulation. No travel impacts, of course. And from Austin eastward, I think it's just all a cold rain. All right, tonight, warm and windy ahead of the storm, 62 as clouds increase. Tomorrow, some afternoon sun, then a 50% chance of storms late in the evening. High temperatures at 80. We're not going to see a temperature that warm for at least another week. St. Patrick's Day looks cold and windy behind that morning likelihood of storms. Highs stay near 50 or so this weekend. Cloudy skies, just a slight chance of a light rain shower. The first day of spring looks awfully cold with light rain likely. Then temperatures rebound gradually next week.
Well, just ahead, the amazing find at an Arkansas State Park, living up to its name, Crater of the Diamonds. Well, you'll want to see this. A visitor to Arkansas's Crater of Diamonds State Park has unearthed a rare 3.29 carat brown diamond. David Anderson discovered the gem while sifting gravel in the west drain of the park's 37-acre diamond search area. He's a regular at the park who's found more than 400 diamonds over the last 16 years. Now, 15 of those have been more than 1 carat. Now, he plans to sell this one, but we don't know yet how much it's worth. Visitors to the park on average do find about 2 diamonds every day. And more than 75,000 diamonds have been unearthed at the park since the first diamonds were discovered in 1906.
Remember paper maps? Well, now we all rely on tech to travel from point A to B, but that could be contributing to cognitive decline. Ahead on NBC Nightly News, Dr. John Torres has the new sport that's going old school to help keep our brains young.
I'm just outside of Tucson, where 100 people are participating in the sport of orienteering, where they use a compass and a map to find their way along checkpoints. The purpose behind this is to have fun. But studies show that exercising your body and your mind this way can help you physically, but it can also help prevent dementia later on in life. We'll have more on this tonight on NBC Nightly News.
Thanks for listening to KXAN News Nightly. You can also listen to KXAN News Today every morning for more in-depth coverage of what matters most to you.